Hi, my name is Alex Terrence. I teach at Rittner High School, and my social studies classes use Google Forms for assessments, tests, quizzes, things like video worksheets, and it's been a really great way to give them positive feedback on, things that they knew and they did well on, but also things that they need to work on. So I'm going to walk you through how to set those up. It shouldn't take too long. I go to Google to access Google Forms. I click on the waffle at the top right, and I click Forms. It takes me to the doc website, and I have not used, for the most part, I have not used assessments or exit tickets or worksheets, but those are probably just as easy to set up, and some of the stuff that I'll go over will help you to be able to, set those up as well. So one of the things that I really like about Google, I'll talk about some of the benefits right off the bat. One of the things I really like about Google Forms is that when you give students assessments and you set the key ahead of time, it essentially grades everything for you, and you're able to give them feedback instantaneous. It updates as they're submitting their test. So there's no sitting back and going through the quizzes and marking which one's wrong. It's done for you. So this was a test that I created for my regular world history course. As you can see, you're able to put in images, diagrams, charts, political cartoons, anything you want to assess students. You can enter into these tests and quizzes, and I'll show you how to do that. And like I said, the really nice thing is that once they're graded, it's very easy to give them feedback on how they did. So in order to pass this test, you needed to score above a 30, and you can see right away that the majority of my kids did that, so there's immediate feedback for me. But also you can look at questions that they most frequently miss. So the United States policy to stop the spread of communism was called, and then I can immediately go over those with the kids before they're even done to see or to reteach those topics. When you get the test, it attaches the grade to their email, and so essentially you're able to go through and quickly add those into your class roster and then transfer them over to your grade system. Now, if you to set up grading like that, there's the settings button, and what you're going to want to make sure that you do is when you do set this up, you're going to have to go through your settings to make sure that it collects the information that you want to. So you can have it so it doesn't collect their email. If it's a survey, it could be more anonymous, but for tests and quizzes, I have it collect their email. I obviously limit it to one response. Now, if a kid, say their computer dies, you might need to go back and turn that off so that they could log back in to take the test. I restrict it to Rittner School District users so that I don't have somebody using, their outside Google email to answer things, or having their buddy or their friend answer them. It's a good way to make sure that, at least they're being somewhat honest. For presentation, you can show a progress bar. You can also shuffle the question order. It's important that if you need questions to go in certain orders, that you don't click this button. But if you don't mind, what question 1 is or what question 10 is, then you can select this button and it'll shuffle them all up. That's great to prevent cheating, so that kids are not looking at somebody else's computer and seeing what they're seeing. And then you can also, make it so that they can see the questions that they missed or not see the questions that they missed. And I always turn off correct answers, because if I have multiple classes taking the same test, I don't want my first hour class to be able to tell everybody in my 6th hour class what the correct answers were. So I allow them to see which ones they missed, but I do not allow them to see the correct answers. Now, you can also set it so that it does not immediately release their grades. And all you would do is then click it to later after manual review, and then I'll show you how to do that as well. But I always use it so that they can look at their grade right away. If you do have it set for later after manual review, all you have to do is scroll down here and then click Release Scores, and it'll send every kid their emailed score after you've already entered in their grades or what have you, or all of your students have taken it. Now, as far as the questions go, setting up a question is very easy. All you do is on the right-hand side, click the plus button, and it'll set up a new multiple choice question. If you want to change that, there's a whole number of different options. You can have a short answer, like a fill in the blank. You can have a paragraph format, check boxes, drop downs, any of those work as well. If you're doing a survey, you can do a linear scale. I have in the past done a multiple choice grid where they can, like with explorers, like which of these explorers did A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then they can select that. But that will not grade it for you. There's no way to set up a key for that, so you're going to need to look at that. As far as your questions go, you can do a whole bunch of different, there's a bunch of different options that you can use. So like the question that I set up below, I'll walk through setting that up. You would type in your question. And you can copy and paste. So if you have a Word document where you want to copy the question over, you can copy it over, but you have to do the question, and then when you go to do your options, you can do all 4 options A, B, C, D at once. But for the question, you have to enter just the question, and then you would click down here and Control C would copy your A, B, C, D option choices, and then Control V would paste all 4 of them into separate lines there. Now, to enter a picture. This is important because if you enter the picture separately, when you scramble up your questions, like when you, in your settings, if you, shuffle the order of the questions, it will shuffle the picture. So in order to do it so it doesn't shuffle the picture, you click the image here, and then you can you essentially select it from your computer or take a snapshot, and that would allow you to be able to enter a picture. So if you click upload and you want to go into your images, you can put in an image and it'll attach it to that question. Okay? So here's Ashoka's Buddhist temple. And then what you can do is then string your questions along with that, and you can have as many options as you choose. The nice thing is that as you're setting up your question, you can also select an answer key. So like I said, it'll grade the test for you. You click answer key, and the first thing you're going to want to do is select your point value. So I usually make document questions worth 2 points, and then you would select the correct answer, option 2. And then when you finish the test and kids hit submit, it'll automatically grade that question for you. Now, there's one other thing that's really nice that you can do to make your test a little bit more secure for, to prevent student cheating. I make every multiple choice question required, so they can select a random option if they don't want to read it, but that way they don't accidentally submit a test without at least realizing that they've missed a question. But the one thing that you can also do is click shuffle option order, and what that'll do is shuffle options 1 through 4 for each student. So 2 students sitting next to each other might be looking at the same question, but option 1 is going to be something different for them than option 4. Okay, so they'll have essentially scrambled multiple choice. Now, once you have done that, like I said, there's this question's essentially ready to go. But once you have done that, there's a couple of other things that you can do that make your tests or quizzes even more versatile. You don't necessarily have to have just multiple choice. By clicking the YouTube button, what you can do is search documentaries. Let's just see what they have for World War I. And you could pick a crash course video on World War I, and you can enter that into a test or a quiz, and you can give quizzes based on videos on the internet. And that is a really nice feature. You can expand it, and then what the kids will be able to do is when they sit down to take this, they can watch the video individually. So, Tommy is sitting next to Johnny, and they're watching the same video with headphones in, and they're focused, they're on their own page, and not really looking around at what everybody else is doing. But you can then add multiple choice questions so that you're essentially making it a video worksheet that goes with each kid, and it really does cut down on the amount of paper that you use. Now, in this test, I have multiple sections, and this is another thing that you can do to kind of improve upon just taking it from a quiz to a multiple unit or multiple quiz assessment. So I've got a World War I section on this test, and then as you scroll down, I've inserted a World War II section, and then a Cold War section. And so by having 3 separate sections, I can kind of separate the questions to make it easier for the kids so that they're not, looking at a Cold War question and then all of a sudden the very next question is a World War I question. It does make it a little bit easier for them. And to enter a section, all I do is click on the last question that I asked, for World War I, and then I would click the section button here, and that would enter a new section. Okay. The nice thing is that when they take the test, it breaks this into pages. So even though I see all of them on the same page, for them they would scroll through and they would finish page 1, click next, and it would go to page 2, and so on. That's pretty much it as far as that goes. If you'd like to see what the test looks like for them, here you go. So the first question was no longer the one about the trench warfare. Now they're looking at essentially the Treaty of Versailles for the very first question. And as I said, not only are the questions scrambled, but 2 students looking at this image of trench warfare would essentially, artillery and machine guns might be option C for one kid, or option B for another, because I shuffled the option order too. And then once they answer all these, they would scroll down, click next, and it would take them to the next section. Now, if a kid missed a question, let's say they skipped one because they went on, because I made each question required, they would, be redirected to go back and make sure that they answered each question. Okay. For you and I to look at this, you would not only see, the summary of how everybody did on the test, but you can also click on each, let's say I wanted to go over this question with the kids. I can click on it, and it'll take me right to that question, and then all I have to do is essentially talk to them about, why this is the correct answer or why these ones are wrong. The other thing you can do is if you do a short answer section, you can click on individual grade, and then it will allow you to be able to grade the individual short answers. And all you are going to do is essentially go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you can go through each kid's test and grade the short answer. If you are going to do short answer, I would recommend putting that as questions like 1, 2, 3, 4, because what you'll have to do is if you do short answer at the end of the test, which most people normally would do, you'll have to scroll all the way down, grade the short answer, and then scroll all the way back up to click the next test, which is kind of a pain. But you can look at each individual score. The last thing I wanted to show you is the ability to move this over to an Excel spreadsheet. I don't use this very often, so I'm not terribly versed in how to move this over. But you can convert this to a spreadsheet just by clicking the Excel button right there, and then click Create, and it'll take it to an Excel spreadsheet or a Google spreadsheet that you can use as well for other programs. I think other people in the school use it for Flubaroo, but I'm not very well versed in that. But again, it kind of shows you exactly what people chose as their correct answers, chose as their responses, and you can go back and look at which questions they really did well on and which ones they did not. It'll also put on there the short answer for their free response questions as well. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, you can get in touch with Garth Scott, and he can get back to me, and we can create another video to help you out if you need something else. All right? Thank you very much. Have a good day.